there and welcome to Bike File with me, Wazza. This week Louise is going to be getting down and dirty off-road in the countryside. Rod is going to be on one of these. And in the meantime, lucky old me has got the Yamaha R1 to play with. Welcome to this splendid piece of countryside on this rather murky day with this particularly lovely 2002 R1. Now this is a bike that's got a fair bit of pedigree behind it. We travel back to 1998 and we find the very first R1 breaking cover, and it quite literally tore apart the big bore super sports class. The Fireblade, which had ruled the roost supreme for 5 years, was knocked off its top slot in very short order by the first incarnation of this bike. Quite simply, the R1 managed to have more power in a lighter package with better handling than any of the rest of the competition. All of a sudden, the rest of the class was left dead in the water overnight. Fast forward a couple of years and you've got the second generation R1. Still look the same as the first one with a few colour changes, but they've managed to sharpen up the chassis a bit, speed up the steering slightly, and also the motor had got a little punchier inside that package. Altogether, still a very strong contender, not many changes but enough to keep it at the top of the class. Until a year later, Suzuki's GSX-R 1000 turned up and blew it into the weeds. So for 2002, Yamaha fought back with this, the 2002 R1. Now this is the first major redesign this bike has had since its launch. And rather than take on the GSX-R 1000 head-to-head on pure power terms, it seems that Yamaha have taken a similar tack to Honda in that they want to produce a machine with a large amount of power, but they want to go stronger on the ideas of control and handling. So we're aiming to make a very fast package that's a bit more usable than the ultimately very brutal GSX-R 1000. But have they succeeded? Well, I suppose on the one hand, I mean it's an easier bike to ride fast than it was. The brakes are still pretty good. Really has the potential to handle. Steve Plater's done very well with it, but I don't know, it's going to be contentious. I just think that for me, this bike just doesn't feel as exciting to ride as it used to. It's very efficient, it's very fast and powerful, but the outright excitement that made every ride on the old R1 and the one before it a special experience isn't quite there with this one. For 2002, the R1 motor makes 143 horsepower and flat out, give yourself enough space, you will still see a genuine 174 miles an hour. Now these are pretty impressive figures. This is still a very serious motorcycle. But the biggest changes in the engine room, apart from the new fuel injection, which it has to be said is nice and smooth, is that Yamaha have flattened out the delivery slightly. Where last year's R1 had a very chunky low down and mid-range hit as well as its top end, this year the feeling when you give it some berries is that you're accelerating hard, but there's just no ferocity to it like there used to be. On the one hand, this is a very good thing because it means you can use more of the R1's power more at a time. And I would say that back to back with the old model, you will find this is the quicker bike, simply because you can get to that power more easily. However, it does feel less involving to ride. And for me, that loses it a couple of marks. And now, over to Louise.
Welcome back to Bike File. I'm under here, I'm Louise Brady, and that's Chris Moss flying around there on the bike. Now if you remember last week we've come to this field in the middle of Birmingham, and of course we've got the Honda off-road bikes here, and we've got Roger Harvey, who is like the top instructor. I mean, it really doesn't get much better than that. We had a few lessons and now it's time to put it all into practice. Woo! I'm nervous.
Good, look, she's laughing like hell. Look, you can see the apprehension, the way she's. See, I said don't squat. You can see the squatting. Her legs will blow up with very short order. Looking like up the top here.
A little bit up top, yeah.
Because you're squatting.
Okay.
You're squatting a little bit. You got to stand. I'll just make it easier for you.
Yeah.
If you stand, it'll make it a lot easier. You're dirty already.
Do I look like a panda?
Not yet, but you will.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Whew.
So just try it. Sitting position.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of the bike, and then
Yeah.
when you're standing, make a conscious effort to straighten your legs and just go back a little bit.
Okay.
Straighten them right out and go back a little bit. So what you're tending to do, you're sitting like that.
I bet that looks lovely, doesn't it?
Just to me.
Now, while everyone else was taking a break and eating pies, I decided to take myself in the car park and learn how to pull a wheelie. I've always wanted to do one. So it doesn't care what bike you're on, right? As long as it's a small motorcycle, it's a wheelie, right? Check this out. Woo! Back to the training with Roger!
Bloody good, man.
Whoa!
But it's so different, isn't it? I mean, things that you've learnt not to do
Yeah.
on a road bike, you've got to dismiss. I mean, right, when you're on the grass on a road bike, you would just not touch the brakes at all. Not be aggressive with the throttle, but with this, you know, you just have to let it come to you, but there's a lot of grip, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I can tell by the fact you're a bit puffed out, like me. It's hard, isn't it? And that's
shaking.
because we're just on the flat, you know?
Yeah.
It'll be really physical on the... I'm not ready for that yet, are you?
Oh God, nowhere near. No, I'm sticking to the grass for now. But I still feel as though I want to sit down a lot. It still feels really
that's another
unnatural standing
alien
up.
thing, isn't it? You don't do it on a road bike, so on that basis, it would talk to me, lovely.
I can't tell you how fast my heart's beating. I mean, I really am pumped up. I thought I'd feel it more in my wrists, but then again I've been doing a lot of yoga, so my wrists are quite strong. I really feel it in my legs. Tops of my arms as well. Yeah, God blimey. I'll tell you what though, when I really stood up very tall and just had a little bit of flex in my knees like Roger said, it actually felt so much more comfortable. I mean, I was so rigid and uncomfortable to start with, but sat down it feels awesome. You just feel so safe, and it's so nice knowing that if you do bin it, you're only on grass. Oh dear. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. Let's see what he's got to say. He totally binned it. Are you alright, Pet?
Absolutely awesome, I'll tell you, man. I've just seen a new side of biking completely.
I've just seen you on your side. What happened?
Oh, I don't know, don't ask me, I wasn't in control. What happened, Rog? What did I do?
You just got a bit on
too excited.
Yeah, and you got your knee out instead of your foot still. If your
Oh,
foot was out,
I even like the crash, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, man, this is one of the best days I've had on a bike, bar none.
Is it?
Awesome.
Oh,
Total convert.
Yeah, that's
I mean, just forget any road bike. Fireblade, GSX R1000, awesome bikes, but not as exciting as these things, man. You're just on the edge.
Yeah.
I've got to
And
agree.
sometimes over it, obviously.
we just saw it.
I
It's
was good for
been
me to have a
absolutely
crash though.
incredible.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Because-
stop.
Confidence.
Roger,
No,
do you
brilliant.
reckon there's any potential for the pair of us?
I think we
in,
could both see you in a
motocross?
race at some stage.
Do you
Andy.
reckon?
Yeah.
Is there
The
any
way-
women race?
There is. They have a total ladies' race. Yes.
Oh, I wouldn't mind
But they're
watching that.
pretty handy. They're pretty handy. We'd have to do a fair bit more schooling.
I've been jumping cars in the car park. You not seen me?
No, I thought I saw something over the top.
You've heard of happy hour? This is bull hour.
He's been jumping mushrooms.
I think your mouth's a bit bigger than your ability, Pet.
At least I managed to stay on, not kiss
Well,
the
you weren't
grass.
going fast enough to crash.
And it's the same story with the handling on the new R1, because Yamaha have certainly given the rider more control and more ability to ride this bike faster, easier. Basically, they have made the R1 the most stable bike in its class. You will not need a steering damper on one of these unless you are racing it. You cannot make this bike slap no matter how hard you try, and believe me, I have tried in all manner of places and occasions. So, this can only be a good thing. But there is a trade-off. Stability equals slower steering. And the R1, in standard form as it comes out of the crate, is the hardest bike in its class to muscle about at the track, feeling slightly heavier than it used to chuck from one side to the other, or to get into a corner. Obviously, the R1 suspension is fully adjustable, and you'll be pleased to know it can be set up to steer more quickly without compromising any of its excellent mid-corner and apex to exit stability and feedback. And if you do set your R1 up to steer more quickly, one trade-off of this is that you are going to put more weight over the front of the motorcycle and more weight through your wrists. Now, I'll be honest with you, the R1 as it comes already puts a lot of weight through your wrists. And if you ride this bike through town, you are going to get in some serious wrist ache pretty quickly. Probably it's the least comfortable bike in the class in those conditions. But, strangely, go quickly, i.e. get above 70 miles an hour, obviously not in this country, that would be illegal, and you will find that the wind blast that comes up off the fairing hits you perfectly in the shoulders, nice clean air around your helmet, not too much buffeting, and it becomes incredibly comfortable. So if you're in a hurry to get to the south of France, I'd say this would be the big bore super sports bike to do it on. And if you did ride your R1 to the south of France at Mach 3, when you got there, you'd want to stop. So it's a good job this bike is still wearing some pretty decent brakes. But pretty decent, unfortunately, is all they are these days. Once upon a time, when the R1 was launched, these brakes were the best thing since sliced bread, and everyone but everyone raved about them, and with good reason. However, since then, Fireblade brakes have come on, ZX9 brakes have come on, and the R1s are now second or third in class. Certainly not the best. They feel a little wooden by comparison, although all the power is still there. So, all right brakes, not brilliant. At least they are better than the GSXR 1000s, however.
That's good. So smooth and shiny.
Oh, time for the brake. Whew. Well, I hope that was as good for you as it was for me. Welcome back to part 2. So what we've got here is an R1 that is most definitely easier to ride fast than it used to be. And it's got a little more power and speed to it as well. Unfortunately, in their process of making this bike easier to ride, for me, Yamaha have taken away that final edge that the old R1 used to have. The one that just set your hair on fire, sent you completely stark raving mad and left you knowing you'd been riding something very fast. This is much more efficient, and back to back I'm sure it is quicker. It just doesn't quite do it for me. But what do I know? This bike has still outsold all the competition this year. Over to Rod.
When Hannibal crossed the Alps to conquer the world, he chose to travel by the most impressive, regal form of transport then available, the elephant. If he was retracing his steps today, he would probably choose something equally as impressive from the world of two wheels. high on his shortlist would have to be this Yamaha Royal Star. If you thought big cruisers were the exclusive preserve of Harley-Davidson, then take a look at this. Yamaha's design brief was to pitch head-on in the market with Milwaukee's classic line, with a bike bigger, heavier and with more of everything. The Royal Star is a huge land cruiser. Its massive 1294cc V4 engine providing the heart of what has to be one of the largest production motorcycles the world has yet seen. Not surprisingly, the Royal Star feels like a big, heavy lump of motorcycle to ride. Suspension is soft, ground clearance is limited, and these footboards ground rather too easily. It's not even as comfortable as you might imagine either. The spread-eagled riding position makes sustained speeds of over 80 miles an hour difficult to maintain, and surprisingly, engine vibration challenges you to keep your feet on the footboards at those sort of speeds. Marks out of 10. Performance, 5. It's a big, torquey engine and it pulls well, but there's an edge missing to the performance. The big, lardy handling and lack of ground clearance restrict bend swinging, and range is limited. This bike makes progress at its own pace and will not be hurried. For street cred, 4 out of 10. Civilians will be mightily impressed by this bike, but real bikers will note your passing with a wry smile. If acres of chrome wrapped around a big soft engine float your boat, you'll love it. But if you're looking for something practical to ride around on, you'll be disappointed. Personally, I'll stick to Hannibal's Elephant. Build quality, 7. The bike is built to Yamaha's usual high standards, and the engine and transmission should be unburstable. Paintwork is good and the chrome looks like it might survive the occasional English winter. For comfort, 6. Big wide bars, big comfortable seat and footboards give a classic cruising stance. At low speeds this is a couch potato's delight, but try to hustle and the cramps will soon set in. Value for money? 3 out of 10. Unfortunately for Yamaha, times have moved on and left the Royal Star grounded like a beached whale. Officially discontinued, you may still find the odd one in dealer showrooms discounted to around 5 grand, but expect it to depreciate faster than a Sinclair C5.
Performance, 7 out of 10. It's a very powerful motorcycle, it's a very fast motorcycle, but this year's R1 isn't quite as involving to ride as the old one was. And also, those brakes aren't feeling as good as they used to, thanks to the competition having got a little better in the last year or so. Street cred, 8 out of 10. Personally, I'm not a mad fan of the styling, but I seem to be about the only one. Everyone else I know goes absolutely bonkers for this bike's pointy, sharp, lovely lines. So I'm going to go with them and give it an 8. Build quality, 7 out of 10. All in all, a lot better than Yamaha's of days gone by. However, if you're not careful and you're a bit of a wheelie merchant, you're probably going to end up with knocking head bearings fairly soon. And as well as that, if you ride through winter, you're going to get some furry fasteners. Other than that, really rather nice. Value for money, 7 out of 10. I mean, this bike is one of the best sellers of the year, so all those people can't be wrong. However, you've got to bear in mind the usual things when buying a bike like this. The insurance is going to be sky high for most people because of the calibre of machine that it is, so look at that as well as the sheer value of the asking price. I'm afraid that's it for another roistering episode of Bike File, but please do join us again next week when we'll have a load more exciting stuff going on. And as for me, I'm off to find us a racetrack to test at next week. Bye.